Hey everybody, it's Mama to Wife of One and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Mama to Wife of One. I am a content creator, a blogger, a mommy, a wife, an editor, an author, and as you can clearly see, a proud Black woman. So if you are not new here, well, thank you for trusting me enough to come back so that we can discuss this show. Sometimes a train wreck, sometimes a pleasure, all the time entertaining. We are here to discuss Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 10, which is called Moody Month-iversarys. This is the episode where all the couples are celebrating their 1-month anniversary. Now, in the real world, if you get married, normally the 1 month is like, oh, this is cute, we've been married for a month, and it's not a big deal. But for our couples, this experiment of the show is only for 8 weeks. So technically, they are at the halfway mark. And again, it's interesting to remember the timeline of all of this because they have been married on the show for 4 weeks. But like I said, this is episode 10, which means we have been following them now for 2.5 months as they've gone through this process. So if you've never watched the show before and you just clicked on this video by accident, make sure you go back to episode 1 where I go through the premise of this show. But by now, we pretty much know what's going on with the couples. We're going to get right into Morgan and Ben. This is my take on it. So I understand Morgan being upset. I think Ben is very naive, and I think I have so many questions, right? So if you guys remember, on the honeymoon, they had this big to-do about the fact that Ben went to Justin to complain about something that Morgan said to him that concerned him, right? So of course she was pissed because I guess Justin told Alexis what was going on, or Alexis overheard or whatever. So, of course, Morgan's like, I don't want you telling my business to people. I don't want you doing that in the future. That broke my trust, all this other stuff, right? She obviously has a lot of trust issues from her own father. But because of that, she normally shuts down when something like that happens. And that's essentially what she did with Ben. She shut down for a good portion of the time. And they just started getting back good again until last week, where we discovered that Alexis took Morgan aside and told her, hey, Ben's been calling Justin every single day, talking smack about you, essentially. And the whole question was, well, not the whole question, but a lot of people were questioning, was Alexis right in telling Morgan this information? I think that I personally, now that I know a little bit more about the situation, I think Alexis was right in telling her, because I think if nothing else, Ben needed to be held accountable. Because Morgan kept saying, the one thing I asked you not to do was to go to the other couples about our business. That's the one thing I asked you to do. And again, I have so many questions, okay? All right, you still have issues with Morgan, or you still have things that you don't understand about Morgan, or you're struggling with how to reach her and all this other stuff. So one of the reasons why they put all the couples in the same apartment complex is so that the couples can lean on each other, learn from each other, and help each other out. The problem with the whole premise of helping each other out, though, is that nobody knows what they're doing. This is everybody's first time being married. Everybody's struggling in some way, shape, or form. And it may not be the same issues as the other couples, but you all are still learning what it means to be a husband and to be a wife, especially a specific husband to your wife or a specific wife to your husband. So leaning on Justin as much as you are, what the heck does Justin know? His marriage isn't perfect. And even if it was, he's been married as long as you have, maybe 2 or 3 days longer, but he doesn't know what he's doing either. And my question is, they kept building Ben as this mama's boy. So where the freak is your mama? If you're really a mama's boy, I feel like my assumption is that this boy is a mama's boy. Any man who claims to be a mama's boy and you having issues in your marriage, I feel like my first thought would be, let me call my mother to get advice from my mother. Not just because she is my mother and she knows me, but also because she's a married person who's been married for over 40 years. So she probably has some advice that I could use. Or if nothing else, she's my best friend, so let me confide in her. We haven't seen this mother since the wedding. So that part confused me. And you had friends that you told when you were getting married, some friends that came to the housewarming party, friends that stood with you at your wedding. Why would you talk to one of your friends? You know they're not going to go back to Morgan. Why would you talk to the one guy who's on the show with you, who is going to tell his wife, or I think like Alexis overheard the conversation because apparently Justin was talking to Ben on speakerphone. So Alexis is hearing all this stuff, but why wouldn't you talk to somebody who isn't involved in all this stuff? So that way, even if Morgan had an issue with you talking about the marriage, who's going to tell her? If you're talking to your friends, they're not going to hit her up and like, oh, Ben was talking smack about you. It just seemed dumb that Justin is the person you confide in. How close are you with this person that you've known pretty much as long as you've known your wife? Why is Justin all of a sudden your BFF? That part makes me confused. But I think it's also semi part of the show's problem, because every season the show kind of highlights one couple as the couple that's like the unofficial therapist for the other couples. Normally there's one or two couples that are doing exceptionally well. They're growing. They're really taking advantage of the 8-week process, and they're really just doing well, and they become the quote unquote model couple. And that couple is normally the one who dishes out advice to other people. This season, it kind of seems to be Justin and Alexis. So Ben is always going to Justin to ask for advice, and Alexis is always providing advice to other people. So that whole situation was just weird. Morgan obviously was really pissed off, and she and Ben were supposed to meet at the place where they got married. They were supposed to have a lovely, nice time, nice dinner, go back to the suite where they spent their honeymoon, and just have roses and look at the pictures from their wedding and all this other stuff. And of course, none of that happened. Morgan let him have it. But she kept interrupting Ben. So basically last week, she packed up some of her stuff and she moved out because she was just so pissed with Ben, right? And then she gets a text message from Alexis saying that Ben is here at our apartment, and I just want to let you know I'm sitting right beside him. Again, I think this is Alexis being messy. You did not have to do that. In that moment, I think Alexis was being messy. I don't think that was necessary. You should have just told him, Ben, no, I don't think you should be here. You need to go talk to Morgan. Go home and go, get yourself together, or go after her, whatever you need to do. But no, we cannot have this discussion because you've been coming to my husband way too often. And she should have been told Justin this. Not saying you can't be friends with Ben, but if the subject of wives comes up, say, no, Ben, I'm not the person you need to talk to. You need to talk this over with your wife, man. I can't help you anymore. But you should have had a discussion with your husband. And I don't know if Alexis has or not. But she should have been told Justin, hey, this isn't cool. You need to tell him, this isn't right. And they shouldn't have let him come in the house or something. But for Alexis to text Morgan, I think that heightened the situation a lot more. But I also think for Ben, Morgan, walking out, I think he didn't necessarily know what to do. But again, why didn't you call your mother? Or better yet, this is my biggest beef. You guys are not communicating well. You guys are not getting along right now because old issues are coming up. And now we're rehashing, the idea of trust and all this other stuff. Why at no point did either one of you think, you know what? We need serious help. Let's call the experts. They should have called the experts. That's one. Two, instead of having this thing at the place where they got married, this is what I say, Ben is so naive. He really came there with flowers, hope we can get past this. This woman clean cursed you out. And we all heard it, and you were there to witness it. So to think that you're still going to have these roses and have this time with her like everything's all gravy, you guys haven't resolved anything. You haven't talked about anything at all. So I thought it was weird that he was still trying to have this romantic situation set up. I would have canceled all those plans, and I would have called an emergency meeting with Pastor Cal or with Dr. Pepper or with both of them together. I feel like Ben, not even as the husband, well, I will say as the husband and as the person who technically is wrong in the situation, he should have been the one to be okay, I want my marriage to work. I hate where we are right now. He kept saying I'm in a nightmare right now. I feel like I can't do anything right. I don't know what to do. Part of me was oh, I feel bad for Ben. The other part though was but you caused this. The one thing she told you not to do was to go to Justin, and you're going to him every single day, still saying stuff about Morgan. So I don't understand why I don't understand why he doesn't understand why she's as upset as she is. Obviously, she told you not to do this and you did it. So I'm very confused as to why he's oh, this is a nightmare and this is awful. You did this though. You actually picked up the phone and you kept calling him. I don't get that at all. Really don't understand that. But again, he should have canceled all of the plans, and he should have called Pastor Cal or Dr. Pepper on his own and said, hey, this is a situation. Morgan's not talking to me. We really need you guys' help. And then they could have come and had a sit down individually, with them individually or with them together, and really hashed everything out. Because I think what they really needed and what they could really benefit from is having a mediator. Just with Morgan coming there to the place where they got married and trying to talk to Ben, it was just a lot of anger in her voice, obviously, and a lot of distrust and a lot of hurt. And he couldn't get a word in edgewise at all. Even when she's asking him questions and he's trying to answer, she kept cutting him off. They needed a mediator there who will make them listen to each other, because that was not happening at all. And so that kind of pissed me off, and that pissed me off for a lot of the couples. This show, Obviously, the point is for you to get married, right? For you to marry this person, to fall in love, to have this wonderful, great life, have babies if you want, and just have your one person who is like your, not soulmate, but to have your person. But in doing that, it's a journey. Marriage is not an easy thing. Today happens to be my wedding anniversary. I've been married now for 9 years. Love my husband and he loves me, but marriage isn't easy. And we didn't have the benefit of having experts on hand 24/7 to help us out, but these couples do. So if you know you've never been married before, you know this is brand new territory for everybody, why wouldn't you utilize these experts a lot more? And that's what bothers me. A lot of these couples do not call the experts. They wait until the experts call them to say, hey, we're coming over. But you have problems leading up to that. So why not utilize this technically free therapy and just hit them up to say, hey, I'm having issues with this. We're having issues with communication. We're having issues with trust. We're having issues with intimacy, whatever it is. That's why the experts are there. So it bothers me that not enough of them take advantage of that. And Ben and Morgan, they need like some emergency couples couch sessions with one or both of the experts at this point, because they're just not listening to each other at all. And their whole thing last night was just a big mess. Like I said, it was just a bunch of cursings, a bunch of accusations. One thing that I didn't like that she said, because I understood her being upset. I got that completely. What I didn't like is that she said that I signed up for this. I'm going to stay in this for the next 4 weeks because I need you to see how hurt I am. What I hear when she says that is, I'm going to stick around for the next 4 weeks because I'm planning on making you so incredibly miserable for the remainder of this process. I'm not going to let you off the hook and just walk away. You're going to feel my anger and you're going to feel my hurt and you're going to feel my distrust. So I feel like that was a threat technically to him. And, you know, he wants to work things out, but I feel like, I don't know if it's because he's immature. I don't know if, I feel like it's probably a lot of things. I think he's immature. I think that she has not gotten, when they had the conversation last week, I think, about their dads and about how they felt like they were people pleasers and they didn't feel worthy. She kept saying, well, no, I'm good because I looked into myself and I know that I'm this great person and I've had all these accomplishments and all that stuff. I believe her when she says that, but she is not completely healed from that situation either. Because if she has, she would have handled this a lot differently. I really feel like she would have handled it differently than she did. And she needs just one-on-one counseling to continue to deal with the effects of her dad. And I don't know if it's his dad, I don't know what it is, but he needs some help as well. So obviously they were the drama from the show. And it's interesting because the editors do this every season, if you guys will notice. The music is always like generic kind of music. Sometimes you'll have words in it, whatever, but it's very generic sounding stuff. But whenever the music shifted to sound like some music you would hear in a scary movie, picture a scary movie where a person is walking down a deserted hallway or walking down a really dark alleyway, and you know something is about to happen. So the music is preparing you for a jump scare, or they're preparing you for something disgusting, or they're preparing you for something. So the music is just kind of building and building, but it sounds really spooky and really creepy, and it's like a soundtrack to the person walking in this dark alcove. That's exactly what you heard every time they focused on Morgan and Ben. They played that kind of scary music to let you know, okay, now we're going to go back to the drama. We did with the happy stuff. Oh, we're in love. Now let's go back to the drama stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen with them. Truthfully, it's not looking good for any of the couples in terms of long term, but I don't even want to say that just yet. Actually, you know what? It is the month mark, so technically it's the halfway mark for them. So I'm going to give my predictions. I think Morgan needs a lot of therapy. I don't think 4 weeks is enough for her to get the help that she needs to truly heal. So I don't think they're going to make it, because I think if they do make it, it's going to be Ben constantly apologizing, constantly being stepped on by Morgan. And I kind of said that from the beginning. Her personality is very assertive and very strong-willed, and she doesn't give off any warm or fuzzy vibes at all. And truthfully, there's another thing I was thinking about. Because they haven't been married that long, I mean, everybody's been married the same amount of time, but because they had so much time of her being mad at him and her being standoffish and not really connecting with him and, having her walls up, they haven't had any real intimacy outside of maybe a couple kisses on the actual wedding day. I don't think they've even kissed since the wedding day. So no real kisses, no hugs really, no sex obviously. I don't see anything that she has done for him as a wife And it was probably because she had her walls up, but I just don't feel like she did anything for him. I don't feel like she's doing anything for him as a wife because she's so hurt. And, you know, and I understand that. But I think even when they were on good terms, I didn't really see her doing anything to be there for him or what. I don't know. Even when he was pouring his heart out about his dad and about, you know, all these issues he had and like really apologizing to her for how he treated her, he was like pouring his heart out and she was still like just nonchalant about like, oh, well, thank you for sharing that with me. That was so brave. Like you couldn't like touch his hand, give him a hug, give him a kiss, say, call him baby. I feel like her personality though doesn't really, I think her personality just isn't that way. It's not wired that way, but I think Ben could possibly need that. So I'm going to say that I don't think they're going to stay together because A, I think Morgan has a lot of healing to do from her dad. B, I don't think she is exactly what Ben needs on an emotional level. And C, Ben may not be emotionally mature enough to really handle a wife. So I'm going to say that they are not going to stay together. It's just my personal opinion. Lindy and Miguel, I hardly have any notes at all about them. I feel like they, you know, they went sailing and it was nice. And then they looked at their wedding pictures and they drank champagne. And that was pretty much it. Nothing happened with them at all. So I think Lindy and Miguel are okay. They're all right. I think that they genuinely care about each other. I think they're growing into the whole idea of love. Lindy said they have not said I love you to each other. She's like, we still have time. And I feel like they are really seeing this as a process and not seeing it as a race to a finish line of 8 weeks. They're really taking their time to just enjoy the process of being married, continuing to learn more about each other, and just continuing to grow as a husband and grow as a wife. So nothing really happened with them. They're fine. You know, I didn't have any bad vibes about Miguel this episode like I've been having for the past few episodes. So, you know, I'll say that Lindy and Miguel are okay. Well, I'll say for now that they are going to make it. Because they also seem to have a really good job communicating with each other. They're very good at expressing themselves, to listening to each other. And I feel like they're kind of good at compromising as well. So I'm going to say that they're going to make it. That'll be my thing with them. I'm going to save Kristen and Mitch for last because that was an interesting storyline as well. And Alexis and Justin, I'm really confused. I don't really understand what the problem is. And I don't really get it. I'm so confused. Like, he met with his brother and she met with her friend. A lot of them did that at the beginning when they first showed them. They kind of met with their friends and just talked about marriage and these are my issues and this is how marriage is going for me kind of thing. Justin's brother was extremely vocal right before he got married. So I was really hoping that we got to see a conversation with him and his brother about like his brother's thoughts on things. And we didn't really get that. But I think that we should have gotten that because his brother was very, very vocal and is obviously very protective of Justin. So it would have been nice to have that. One of the issues that she said that she has with Justin is that he makes excuses and he can't self-regulate. And one thing I really, like, I know Alexis, some people think that she is messy and some people think that she talks too much, and especially because she talks about other people's stuff and kind of gives people unsolicited advice all the time. A lot of people, I don't say don't like her, but a lot of people just think she needs to shut up sometimes. And that's probably true. But I also like how self-aware and in tune Alexis is with Justin. I don't mind them together. Actually, I like them together, but I understand what she was saying. She was saying in terms of self-regulation, she was like, you know, if I am upset or I am frustrated, I know to say, okay, Alexis, you're getting frustrated. You're getting a little, you know, upset, hot under the collar. Take a deep breath, take the time, relax, walk away and come back to the situation or figure out exactly what it is you want to say before you open your mouth again. And she said Justin doesn't have that. So she feels like she is doing that for the both of them and it's exhausting for her. And I think that's a fair thing to say. So, I mean, I definitely get that. And one thing she also said I thought was interesting. She said she feels like she is shutting down, trying to stop him from shutting down. So I thought it was very interesting. So I guess when he gets really flustered and frustrated, he just shuts down because he feels like he's not being understood. And she's trying to stop him from doing that by really trying to get him to talk and really trying to understand what it is he's trying to say. But in doing that, it's making her kind of retreat into herself. And I feel like some of the stuff she was saying was kind of similar to what Kristen was saying, where they both feel like they are working overtime to make sure their partner is pleased, to make sure their partner is satisfied, to make sure their partner feels whole, to make sure their partner feels supported. But in doing all of that, they don't have the time or the space to demand that they receive the same thing. And if you are the person that doesn't even know that you are, I don't want to say that you're broken necessarily, but if I am Justin and I have this wife now who's telling me all of this, basically calling me on stuff that I didn't know I was doing, I'm going to be grateful that she's doing that for me, but I'm going to be so caught up in my gratefulness and so caught up in trying to be a better person and in trying to adhere to the things she's trying to teach me, that is not going to dawn on me necessarily, oh, let me fulfill her needs as well. That's not going to necessarily cross my mind. I think that's just a human thing. I don't think it's necessarily a selfish thing, but I understand what Alexis and both Kristen were saying. That's the gist, I think, of what they're saying, is that I like you or love you. I appreciate you. You are a good person, but I am working overtime to make sure that you're good. And in doing that, I am losing myself or not getting what I need, because I feel guilty asking for what I need because I'm still trying to help you through your stuff. And so I definitely get that. And she said that she feels challenged by the marriage. And this is another thing, and I said this before about Sasha last week, that people get on the show and they understand that, okay, I'm signing up for this show, I'm signing up to get married, to go on a honeymoon, to live with this person who is my husband or wife, and after 8 weeks I have to decide if I want to stay married or get divorced. So they hear that, and in their mind, again, they have this invisible alarm clock or invisible hourglass above their head for the entirety of these 8 weeks. And in their mind, because they see the sand slowly going down to the bottom, they have to do all of these things before that last grain of sand falls. Okay, they have to love me, and we have to figure out where we're going to live, and we're going to do about this, and we're going to have kids, we're going to do this. And it's like, okay, yes, you need to have these conversations. Everything does not need to be solved in 8 weeks. And that's one thing Justin said. He was like, I just feel like I have things to work on. We have things to work on. I feel like I don't have enough time. You didn't get married for 8 weeks, though. In 8 weeks, you make this decision. But when you signed up for the show, you didn't sign up with the intention of only being married for these 8 weeks. You signed up with the intention of being married for the rest of your life. So stop saying, I don't have enough time. You have all the time in the world. This is supposed to be your forever wife. So you have more time than you think. So why not focus on making these gradual changes that are going to sustain you for the rest of your marriage, as opposed to trying to have these quick solutions right away? And I think in his mind, if I don't have these quick solutions, if I don't solve things right now, Alexis is going to leave me. But the thing that I think about Alexis that he's not taking into account is that Alexis understands growth. Alexis is not afraid to acknowledge growth as well. She has told him, I see that you're trying and I really appreciate it. She sees it. She doesn't dismiss it. She understands it, and she's acknowledging that, yes, I see that you are growing in this area. But that doesn't mean just because you are growing, that doesn't mean I'm not still hurt by some of your behavior. And that's what she's trying to get him to understand at the dinner. So they all had a dinner, which I didn't think they needed to have, but neither here nor there. All the couples met up for dinner. I love that Morgan and Ben did not go, because that would have been awkward and that would have been completely and wholly unnecessary for them to be there. But they all met up for dinner to celebrate the 1 month anniversary and to talk about, where we are. What have you guys done? How do you feel? All this stuff. So everybody's sharing, and it gets to Alexis, and Alexis was like, I think I just want to listen. It's like, I don't think I want to share right now. I think I just want to listen. And they're like, okay. And all the women, I love how supportive all the women are with each other. I don't know how often they talk, but they all seem very, very supportive and like actual friends. And I really like that. And I felt it in that moment. So they were all like, oh girl, at your speed, that's fine, whatever. You definitely don't have to say anything. We're having a good time. This is all good. But Justin couldn't let it go. Well, what the F do you mean? Like, he didn't say what the F do you mean, but in my head, he's basically saying like, well, why didn't you want to share anything? I don't know why you want to say anything, because that gives the impression that things aren't good. I thought things were good. And And it's like, if she said she didn't want to share, in that moment, you're supposed to read the room, right? Read the cues, read your wife's body language. She wasn't acting upset with them. She didn't even say, I'm upset with you. She said, I just don't want to share. I just want to kind of just eat my food. I just want to kind of relax. I don't necessarily want to do that. Now, he could have, if he felt like things were going well, he could have easily opened his mouth and said, well, I think things are well. I really love my wife, but we're still working on some stuff. We got a ways to go, but we're in a good place right now. He could have said that and left it at that, and that would have been fine. But instead, he kept badgering her until she said something. And then it became kind of awkward for the table. But what I love is that in years past, sometimes an awkward situation like that would happen and somebody would jump in and say, well, no, I don't think she means that. Or, oh, I think what he's saying is this. And, oh, yeah, dude, I understand. Oh, yeah, girl, I'm with you. I love that everybody was quiet and they just let her have her piece. She didn't say anything was wrong with Justin. She didn't say that he's this awful person. She was basically like, you're working on things and I get it. But I feel sometimes, but I'm hurt sometimes when you do shut down and when you do this, it really hurts my feelings sometimes. And she's just trying to get him to understand that and trying to get him to not just focus on the bad times, but also focus on the good stuff that they're doing, focus on the progress that they have made, but understand that, yes, through all of that, you're growing, but my feelings are still hurt. And I just want to let you know that sometimes I'm still hurt by that. And sometimes it's tiring because I want you to be good, but in trying so hard to make you feel good, I'm not really getting the things that I need, or sometimes just tiring having to do that. And he was getting flustered and upset, and they would like one was talking Chinese and one was talking German. They just really were not, I won't say they weren't listening to each other. I feel like Justin kind of asked for it because he kept pestering her. When she said, no, I don't really want to talk about this. Again, she didn't have an answer. She was still chilling, communicating, laughing, all this stuff with everybody else. So it made me mad that he pushed her as hard as he did and forced her in that situation. She, I know, was trying not to say anything because she said, I know how sensitive my husband can be. So I don't want to start anything. We can talk about this at a later time. And he just kind of kept nagging her and pushing at her. And it's like, leave her the freak alone. So you asked for this. So you can't get mad at her now when you force her in this position. What he should have done was read the room, read her situation, like, okay, we'll talk about this when we get home. Because obviously there's something going on. Even if it's not about this specific situation, there's something in general about our marriage that's still like kind of bothering you or still not feeling right with you. So we'll talk about this later. And that could have been the end of the conversation. But instead, he turned into this whole thing in front of everybody else. So again, they could use the experts' expertise. And their biggest issue is just communication. They're really not communicating very well. I don't know if he's not listening or she's not listening. I don't know what it is, but they're not communicating very well at all. I feel, though, that the issue sometimes with someone like Justin, who really, really wants this, who wants to be married, wants it more than anything in the world, you're trying so hard to be the perfect husband and to have the perfect marriage that when somebody recognizes or identifies something that you're doing that doesn't quite work, you kind of spaz out because you didn't expect this. You didn't expect to have anything that you need to work on. You didn't expect to have a flaw brought to your attention. None of that was in the cards. You just thought, I'm going to get married and fall in love and I'm going to have this amazing, wonderful life. And you can still have all that stuff. But like I say all the time, being married is basically having this human that loves you, but who is constantly holding a mirror to your face to say, hey, I love you and I'm in love with you and I will be with you for the rest of my life, for the rest of your life, whichever comes first. However, here are some things that you're doing that you don't know you're doing. And I'm just showing you this because the things that you're doing or the things you're saying or the way you're reacting to certain things, they're affecting our marriage. And you don't see that, but I need you to see that because I want our marriage to be as healthy as possible. That's part of it. That goes along with being married. It's not a pretty part of marriage, and it's not an easy part of marriage by any means, but it's definitely a part of it. And Justin didn't understand that or didn't know that. So now that it's happening to him, he doesn't know what to do with that. He knows what to do to please people for the most part, but now he has to do some deeper digging. And I think it's not turning him off, but I think it's frightening him to death that he won't be able to live up to, I don't say expectations necessarily, but I guess kind of. He doesn't know if he's going to be able to live up to Alexis's expectations. And I think he is scared to death that she is going to leave at the end of the 8 weeks. So he's operating and like trying to do everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen. But in trying too hard, you're kind of missing the mark just a little bit. So I think there's still hope for Alexis and Justin. I don't think Justin is a bad person by any means, but I think that he just wasn't prepared for the amount of personal growth he was going to have to do as a husband. So I'm going to say that they can be salvaged. I'm going to say that. I think they can be salvaged. So Sasha and Nate. Now, last week, Sasha was on my nerves. It was the whole question about love and kind of bullying Nate. And Nate kind of put her in her place. He was like, look, this is a you problem. It's not a me problem. You are pushing me. You are being bossy. You're being this. You're being this. You're being this. I like you, but you're not about to push me to say I love you when I'm not ready to do that yet. And her thing is, okay, but I can't go further down this thing until I know for certain that he loves me. So I know for certain he's going to be there. How do you know? He signed up for this with the intention, again, of being married. He said to her last week, I only plan on being married once. So I want to be married. I want that person to be my best friend. I want that person to have my back. I want to be in love with that person. I'm telling you that I'm here and I'm committed and I am liking you more and more every single day. And it will lead there, but you have to trust me. You have to have faith in me, have faith in this relationship. That's what he said to her. So she met up with her mama to basically like talk to her mom, like, Mom, I don't know where it's going to go. And I just don't know if it's going to go here. And I can't do this anymore until I know for sure. And the mother is basically like, it's been a month. And I love the fact that her mother didn't automatically have her back. And that's the beauty of talking to your mom. Your mom loves you and does have your back to a certain extent, but your mother also knows who you are deep down inside. And she was like, girl, you tripping. It's been 1 month. Give that man some time and the space to do what he needs to do. You need to give him that. You're not allowing him to grow. So how are you can't expect him to be all these things you want him to be if you're not giving him the space to do that. He's not going to do that overnight. He's still learning you just like you're still learning him. So I love the fact that her mom gently told her, like, girl, relax. He's going to get there. So I like that. And one thing I guess Sasha was saying is that she recognizes she needs to be patient. And she's kind of like Justin, where she's recognizing the self-work. I can't say she just recognizing it. She's always said that I am a hard woman to deal with. I'm a hard woman to please, a hard woman to be with, to date, or whatever. So she understands it about herself, but I don't think she understood the levels in which she needed to grow. I think now she's starting to understand that, which is good. We'll see how long she actually tries to do the thing she needs to do. It's neither here nor there. But she says she recognizes the need to be patient, and she said she was too trusting in the past, and that's why it's a little hard for her to trust Nate and the things that he says, because she hasn't seen anything tangible. She's like, he keeps talking about things he's going to do, but he hasn't done those things yet. I need to see action now. It's like, again, it's been 1 month, boo. Like, how much do you expect him to do in a month? 1 month. It's just been a month. So for their anniversary, he set up this really pretty place. It was outside. It was filled with roses. It was champagne, of course. And, she asked him, like, okay, so how do you feel about this? What do you think you've learned so far? And let me make sure I have all of the information. He was upfront. He's like, I felt like you were dismissing my actions and my commitment. He's like, and you hurt me. Like, you really hurt me. And he's like, and I feel like you were being a little bit of an a-hole. I was like, okay. And I like the way that Nate talks to her, because he's not mean about it, and he's not trying to tear her down by any means, but he is very honest. And I love the fact that she kept saying, I want vulnerability. Him saying, you hurt my feelings, that's a vulnerable thing for a man to say, because most men are not going to say that. Most women have to read between the lines to understand that a man is hurt. So for Nate to articulate that so well, I was like, this is what she's been needing, and I'm glad that he's comfortable enough with her to do that, because that could have been the issue in the beginning, but he just wasn't comfortable enough with her to really talk about his actual feelings. But he told her that you hurt me and all that stuff. He's like, but I know you well enough to know that that was not your intention, and I can see that you're being more patient. I can see that you are listening to me a little bit more, and you are recognizing the things that I'm doing. So he told her, he sees a future with her. He's like, I'm falling in love with you. And that's exactly what she needed to hear. He didn't say, I'm in love with you yet. Didn't even say, I love you. But he said, I'm falling in love with you. Where last week when we saw them, he was at a 4 out of 10 on the love scale. Now he's about a 7 or 8. And that's all she really needed, was to hear that growth. And another thing, we had 2 firsts for this series of Married at First Sight. 2 firsts that we've never seen in the show's history. They went to a lawyer's office to sign the postnup. We've never seen that. We've never even seen a prenup being signed. So it's like, okay. And this is mature. And, I put in there my notes, I put that she wants to trust, but she's afraid to trust. But that seems like a really big issue of her being afraid to trust somebody. So she claims she's been in therapy. Has this not come up in therapy? Because this seems like a really big issue that hasn't been addressed yet. So this, just a question. But he signed the postnup because he said that he wants to prove that he's not trying to take anything from her, and that he's a team player, and that he's really doing this commitment, right? So that was his, anniversary thing, was setting up the roses and the little lunch. Her was getting, we're going to get matching tattoos today. It's like, now I know he's really committed, and, this is a sign of his commitment. Okay, but he didn't suggest that. So the way I took it is, she's like, us getting tattoos really shows that we're committed and we're in this thing together, right? Like, this is what I needed from him. He didn't suggest that, but you suggested that. So it's technically you forced him to prove his commitment by forcing him to get this tattoo. Like, they both like tattoos and all, but it's like, this wasn't his idea. So it felt like she was kind of stamping him herself, and they both got tattoos like on this part of their hand, which I don't know how they could do. That seems like it would really freaking hurt. But they got tattoos of, I guess, Roman numerals of their wedding date. I was like, okay, that was cute. Again, another married at first sight first. That's never happened before. So I think Sasha and Nate will be okay. I think they're going in the right direction. I think, and Nate said it too, he's like, I think we're going in a really good pace. So I actually really like them together. I think they look gorgeous together. They look so pretty together. So I really want them to work. So I'm going to say that they're going to stay together. Oh gosh, Kristen and Mitch. So I said before that I think Kristen and Alexis are suffering through the same thing, where they're trying really hard to be patient with their husbands and to help their husbands through certain situations. And because of that, they're kind of losing a bit of themselves, and they're not taking time to really ask or demand the things that they personally need. And Kristen, you know, for their 1 month thing, they went to some kind of Mayan place, like a Mayan, not a temple, but they basically like went away for like a day or a weekend or whatever for their 1 month anniversary. And they did yoga, and it seemed really nice and peaceful. And, you know, she was talking about how she still likes him. And, you know, every couple for their 1 month anniversary got a basket from the experts that had the wedding pictures in it, and it had a framed copy of their vows. And they read the vows to each other. And he was saying, you know, we had such hope and optimism on that day. Like, he really liked how hopeful and optimistic they looked and how they felt. And that's one thing I will say about them going back to look at that day. It is really good for them to remember how they felt going into this experiment. Because obviously a month later, now that you know this person, have lived with this person, possibly been intimate with this person, some things may change. So it is good to kind of remember, like, oh, that's why I did this. I did have all this hope. I did vow to do this. I haven't really been living up to my vows. I need to do better. And that's what Mitch was saying. He didn't think that he's lived up to his vows as much as he should have. And I put that in my notes. It's a good reminder on what they promise each other when they go back and look at those. And yeah, she talked to her friend, and she did say that she said to her friend that she thinks there are pieces of her, of Kristen saying there are pieces of me that I think Mitch does not value. And I agree. I agree with that. I don't think Mitch is a bad person at all, but I think Mitch is so concerned with his, not battles, but he's so focused on his interests, and he's focused on his loves and focused on his causes, that he's not doing enough to be the best husband he can be. And not just the best husband you can be, because nothing is a perfect husband, obviously, but there's such a thing as being the best husband for your specific wife, or being the best wife for your specific husband. So for somebody, being the best husband may mean filling up your wife's tank. It could mean bringing up the groceries for her. It could mean cooking dinner for her once or twice a week. For Kristen, it could be something different. And I think for her, she just wants to feel valued. She wants to be appreciated. She wants to be respected for the stuff that she's putting in. And she said she wants to be the best wife possible. Obviously, I'm not married to her, but I think she's done a pretty good job so far. So they all go out, all the couples except for Morgan and Ben. They go out to dinner. They go on like this party bus, and it's a really nice dinner to kind of celebrate. Everybody's nice and dressed up. Pause for the calls real quick before I keep with Kristen and Mitch. If you guys saw that episode and you saw what Alexis wore, my girl was working it, okay? One thing I will say about chocolate melanated Black women, we look amazing in color. And my girl had on a head to toe bright pink jumpsuit, like cat suit with gloves, and she looked amazing. Her body is sick, and that pink looked beautiful on her skin. It looked gorgeous. I just wanted to pause for that real quick, because I was just like, oh, you better work it, sis. Outside of that, Kristen and Mitch are sitting down with everybody. And like I said, everybody's taking turns to say how the marriage is going, what I like about my wife, what I like about my husband, all that stuff. They get to Mitch, and he said that marriage has been hard and difficult. And he was like, I didn't even know if I could be a husband, you know, but it's been hard. But, you know, I like my wife, and I like where we are. And the thing is, I feel like Kristen has been really chilled, and she's been open and honest with Mitch, though, whenever something's bothered her. And I feel like she's been open with the girls for the most part, too. But Kristen, she had her version of snapping, or her version of a breakthrough. I shouldn't say that she snapped. She had a version of a breakthrough, because one thing I was kind of confused about, all the stuff that she said, I wasn't sure if any of that stuff had already been said to Mitch in private. I feel like it should have been before she said it in public if she hadn't discussed it already. And he didn't necessarily look taken aback or anything. He was just kind of listening intently like, okay, oh, okay. She said that she has an issue with the fact, she has an issue when he says that he didn't know he could be a husband. She was like, because she's like, you signed up for this. You signed up to be a husband. So if you didn't think you could be a husband, then why would you sign up for this? She was like, you signed up thinking that. I signed up already a wife. Like, in my head, I was already a wife, and all I need is a husband. And she said she believes the marriage is going so well because she is trying so hard and she's compromising. And she wonders when she'll get to be herself and do what she wants to do. She feels like she was more emotionally prepared for marriage than he was. And I was so glad that she found her voice. Like, she was calm when she said it, but she's basically like, when is it going to be my turn? Like, everybody's saying Mitch and Mitch and Mitch, and Mitch is great, and Mitch is working so hard, Mitch is doing this. She's like, I'm not taking that away from you, Mitch. You do work very hard, and I can see that you are putting your all into this marriage, and I really appreciate that. But what about me? You're not the only one in this marriage, and I feel like I'm not getting credit for the way things are going. I feel like I'm not getting my needs met. I feel like I'm kind of waiting for the attention, not even the attention. I don't think it's about attention. I think it's about, again, this marriage is going great because I'm putting forth the effort to make sure we are good. I am making sure we have these conversations. I am making sure that you feel comfortable. I am making sure that, you know, your little quirks and everything, that I adhere to them or that I accept them or whatever. And I don't say on paper, for us as viewers, it does look like Kristen is putting in all the work. I haven't really seen what Mitch has done other than cooking dinner. I haven't seen what he's done to really vibe with her and to really listen to her. And, you know, she kind of let it all out there. And she was like, you know, Mitch, I'm sorry. And he was like, no. He's like, I never want you to apologize. And I never want you to feel like you had to tiptoe around me. She's like, I'm glad that you told me these things and we can talk about it, you know, in more detail later if you want. But I will always be here to listen and, you know, to be there for you. And I was like, I like that. It's definitely the right thing for Mitch to say. But I think that in that sense, they're matched well because they're both very honest and they're both not afraid to really say what's on their mind. But again, I don't know how much of what she said at the table was said to Mitch in private. And I really appreciated that of him and of her. But I was like, wow, okay. She kind of let it go. So I think Mitch and Chris can be okay. I think they'll be okay. This is another thing I have to say. And I've said this the past probably last 3 or 4 seasons. I do not ever want to see the producers on screen. The producers, when the show first started, were always behind the camera or in a booth or doing whatever they need to do to make the show great, to make it entertaining for us all. The last probably 3 or 4 seasons, we see the producers almost as castmates. And they're talking to not experts, but they're talking to the cast, essentially, the husbands or the wives, but especially whenever there's a fight. They're going to the person like, you know, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? Well, maybe she just needs this. The producers are not experts. They should not be offering any advice to these freaking couples. If the couple walks off because they're pissed off with each other, let them walk off. If one person decides to take a taxi and go home, let them bus go home. Stop intervening. You are not the expert. So I don't want you on screen giving these people advice. Not saying you don't know anything at all, but you're not supposed to be a part of this. You are a producer. You are not supposed to be on screen. The experts are on screen. Their friends are on screen. And obviously the couples are on screen. The producers are supposed to be behind the camera. I'm so tired of them being in front of my camera where I can see them talking to these freaking people. You can talk to them on your break. I don't want to see that. It just made me mad because that wasn't how the show first started. And it annoys me how involved the producers have been getting lately. So that's it. That's my recap and review of Married at First Sight, season 15, episode 10. If you guys have any comments, please comment. I love to read your comments. I love communicating with you guys because you guys have some spot on observations about these couples that I absolutely love. But definitely comment below. Make sure you like this video and share this video. And of course, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 11. Peace.